The February 27, 2018 meeting of Matheson School District Board of School Directors is now called to order. Please rise for the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Worcester is a very fun place. It has its own special activities like the ice cream social. I love my teachers and how caring they are. My principal, Mrs. Brucker, is also very decorative and fun. We also have special days like Worcester Wear Day and Proud to Meet Me Week. There is also after-school activities. One is Environmental Club. There is after-school sports and robotics club. We have fun at pep rallies with Wolfie, our school mascot, while cheering for the Eagles. There is band and orchestra for kids who play music with instruments. Then there is chorus for kids to sing. Being a student at Worcester has helped me to learn that it is okay to make mistakes and that every person in our community is important. That is why I am so glad to be a student at Worcester.
I'm going to come around there.
Good evening, everyone. For announcements, the public is hereby advised of the audio and video recording of this meeting for the purposes of rebroadcasting. We have a few executive sessions to announce. There was an executive session of the board held on February 22nd, 2018 in the Farina Administration Building for the following reasons. 1, discussion on 3 matters of personnel involving professional staff. 2, discussion on a legal matter before the Pennsylvania Human Relations Commission in a student versus Matheson High School, Montgomery County Intermediate Unit, and the North Montco Technical Career Center, docket number 2016064445. Number 3, discussion on a legal matter of John Doe versus Matheson School District in the United States District Court for Eastern District of Pennsylvania, case number 218CV 00210PD. Number 4, discussion on 4 potential legal matters regarding Matheson students. Number 5, discussion on legal matter before Commonwealth Court of Common Pleas in Applied Landscaping Technologies versus the Matheson School District, docket number 2017-00181. And discussion with the Board of School Directors on the decision/recommendation by the 3-member non-binding arbitration panel regarding contract with Matheson Education Association. There was also an executive session of the board held prior to this meeting on February 27, 2018 in the high school classroom for the discussion of acquisition/purchase of land and discussion on non-binding arbitration decision with MEA. For attendance, we have all board members here. Recognition of guests and scheduled speakers, Dr. Zerbe.
Thank you, Mr. President. This evening we have two presentations. One, we have staff recognition, and Principal Brucker is here from Worcester Elementary to assist me in that. And the second, we have Mila Hayes from PSBA, the Pennsylvania School Boards Association, and she'll be talking as requested by the board at the work session to review some of the services that are available in the different plans. So this evening gives me great pleasure to introduce Principal Brucker to recognize staff at Worcester Elementary School. Ms. Brucker.
Thank you, Dr. Zerbe. It is my privilege tonight to be here to honor two of our staff members, both well-deserving. And I'd like to start with our professional staff member, Mrs. Jen Slater. Jen Slater is here tonight with her family. She is our reading specialist for the building. Besides her professionalism of knowing her job and working with kids to help them with reading, Jen is a master planner scheduler. I don't know what her family vacations are like, but you can go to her 5 minutes before a day starts and she can figure anything out and make everyone happy. Jen is a team player. She collaborates with all of our staff. She works with our students very hard. She works with administration, from Farina to me, to lay the best plan for all of our kids. And it is my pleasure to honor her, Jen Slater. I'd also like to continue with our support staff member that we're honoring this evening, and that's Mrs. Sue Fazio. Sue's here with her husband tonight, and it's a bittersweet recognition because Sue is retiring at the end of this year. Sue is our sunshine. She comes in every day ready to go to the cafeteria or lunch, and it is really happy for me to say she loves lunch. She loves lunchtime. And when you find someone who loves to do lunch duty, you don't let them go. So we're trying everything we can. Sue is also a master chef. She has been on the Bobby Flay show. She has gone to Hollywood. And she likes to kid with Dr. Zerbe all the time about her cooking skills. And we are definitely going to keep in touch with her after she leaves because she does make the best pasta. So it is, again, my pleasure to honor her this evening. Mrs. Fazio. And part of the recognition I just wanted to share is they are both, Jen and Sue are both very special to our 4th grade students, and our art teacher, Mrs. Schwartz, made paw prints of all the 4th graders' fingerprints for each of them to share with them so that they can take with them when they leave Worcester.
Thank you very much. Thank you so much for coming. Awesome. Thanks, Jen. This is a heart.
Thank you so much. If I could just say one other thing, Ms. Brucker is absolutely correct. These two award recipients this evening had a very unique connection with the fourth grade class, and I can't tell you how, first of all, they kept a secret for a while that there was going to be an award. That's a big deal. And more surprisingly than anything, you can certainly see the amount of love and care that they have for these two individuals, and we appreciate everything that you do for our children and our community. So thank you so much, and keep on being you. Thank you. Our second presenter this evening is here from, you're a regional director, so you're local. I was going to say you're from Harrisburg. That's not the case. Okay, but Mila Hayes is with us here this evening at the request at our last work session to bring a member of the Pennsylvania School Boards Association forward to discuss some opportunities that the board might be interested in taking advantage of. And while Mila and I talked briefly, while you might have some questions, it was so suggested at the work session that if the board so did care to change their membership from what's considered the basic membership in PSBA to a different membership level, that certainly under new business we could take on that recommendation and authorize the administration to move forward with that process if the board so cares to do that. So, Ms. Hayes, the floor is yours. Thank you.
Great, thank you. Can everyone hear me? Sorry. Again, my name is Mila Hayes, and I am your Member Services Manager for the Southeast region. Essentially, I'm your field manager. I am only about 2 miles down the road. I live and work in Montgomery County. Of course, our main office is in Mechanicsburg, which I do have to travel to. I have about 95 school districts under my region, including Matheson. It's always a pleasure to actually come out and visit the schools and certainly continue to foster relationships with you as the board. It is part of my role, I should say, or a main part of my role, is to help you maximize your use in PSBA services, the services that you already invest in. Another part of my role is to be a resource and consult with you on your needs, certainly as a sitting board member. So I know you received packets probably a few weeks ago because I dropped them off, only about 10 minutes away from my house. And so it may have been somewhat overwhelming, but I'm just going to give a brief overview of some of those services. Then I'm going to talk really quickly about your package, which is a standard membership, and then the other package that you refer to as an all access, and kind of give you a little of a comparison. I really will not take long. I won't be before you long. So first I'll start out with our job description services. Our job description services are really neat because they create templates that ultimately are customized for your district. Certainly it is through a web-based program, and what happens typically is a number of school districts actually have not had the opportunity to update their job descriptions for whatever reason. A lot of times you have very small HR departments and you don't have that opportunity to update them. Well, we actually provide you that service and certainly support you in that service. Certainly you can actually, under your membership currently, you can get 3 to 5 complimentary job descriptions. Just know that. Compensation studies. Our compensation studies actually offer an opportunity for you to receive a comprehensive understanding of your compensation practices. So if you have contract renewals coming up, it is a great opportunity for you to take a look at what are your practices, what are some of the trends in the area, and how you can ultimately offer fair compensation. And then search services. Of course, you're not in the market for executive search services, certainly, but we do offer a tiered program of both planning and training for you as the board to be able to identify an eligible candidate and ultimately select an eligible candidate, and that would be in the form of a superintendent. And then policy maintenance. Policy maintenance is a program you guys already have. It's probably kind of a la carte, and I'll explain that a little later, actually. But policy maintenance is an excellent program. PSBA has been providing that service since 1976, I believe. So it is an excellent program that offers you current legal citations as well as certainly web-based policies that can be created particularly for your district. And then, of course, there are customized trainings. If you have attended our new school board director training, you did get just a snippet of our roles and responsibilities workshop. We offer that roles and responsibility in a half day and full day, as a matter of fact, and that is an additional cost. Minimal cost, but an additional cost. Also, we offer board goals. Board goals actually assist you in certainly developing goals that align with your vision, your mission, and your core values, which is an excellent workshop. And then ultimately, the board self-assessment and action planning. Board self-assessment, I like talking about board self-assessment because it's a neat opportunity for you as a board to identify certainly if you are effective or not, and also to identify some opportunities where you may want to improve upon or change, and then develop some action plans to actually address those goals ultimately. So that's another workshop we offer. I think just in terms of the program or membership that you have, it's called a standard membership. And we also offer an all-access membership. The standard membership currently for on-demand training, and let me go back for a second. If you remember correctly, if you've been to the new school board director training, we talked about some training, a new training module that's coming out, and it offers a series of trainings, 3 years, where you receive badges and certificates. Currently, under your plan, the standard membership, you would have to pay $35 per course. Certainly, from what I understand, a group of you can actually review it together, so you're not paying $35 per person, but certainly you can get that. However, under the all access, it is no additional cost. So that's the difference. Also, the board self-assessment. Under your plan right now, you have a board of self-assessment without an interpretation, which means that you will get the electronic version, but you won't get my interpretation of that outcome. I wouldn't come out. Under all access, you will get that board self-assessment along with the interpretation. So that means I would come out and interpret the outcome, then we'll identify what the things are, what are the issues you'd like to improve upon, and then talk about some action steps with that. And then in addition, you would, under this all access package, you would get a comprehensive subscription, 6 additional copies of the PSBA Bulletin, School Law Information Exchange, and Public Sector Arbitration. Of course, you get the policy maintenance under that, as opposed to the a la carte, which would save, of course, cost. As well as administrative regulations. You would get 15% off of that, which would save costs. That's in addition to your policy maintenance. And then, of course, 15% off your annual conference. Certainly, if you've had an opportunity to attend our annual conference in October, you would all get 15% off of that as well. So that's it. Certainly, if you have any additional questions, I'm here to answer any of your questions.
How many courses are offered in the those online modules?
Yeah, that's a good question. I think it's 53, 56, but I'll get you the, 50. Good question. It's a 3-year program. You also receive certificates and badges with that.
What format are those courses offered in? Is it like a webinar, or is it like an online course?
Online. Good question. Online. Okay. Yep. Very, very accessible.
You don't have to give me an exact number, but out of those 95 school districts that you work with, about how many districts have the all access?
I don't know, but I certainly can get that answer for you. That's a very good question.
Ballpark?
More than half.
Okay.
Definitely.
That's all.
Definitely.
In terms of the policy a la carte pricing that we currently use now, what is that running us in the a la carte?
I don't have that official number, but I'm sure you guys received the invoice for it, so you might have that. I don't want to quote a number that is
I was going to say,
not
like, what about, like, to review one policy, say, what would that run?
Well, it would be the program policy maintenance service itself. So it's not to review one. It would include a series, essentially, of actions. So I think, I don't know, Dr. Zerbe, you might know, or your business manager might know, have some idea of the price exactly. I hate to quote a price and not have.
No, that's fine. The reason I ask is we are one of those districts who for quite some time had not reviewed their policies. We are on a 5-year renewal type thing where we're looking at every policy every 5 years, and we've sent a lot to PSBA and back. So I think that this would be a huge benefit to our district.
Absolutely. I do notice that you use policy often, yes.
If I could ask, the live training?
Yes.
That includes, we've received mailers about like legal roundup that's being held at the Plymouth meeting next month. That's what's included in that?
Yes. I was actually just about to mention those. Yes.
Is that available under standard membership or no?
Under standard membership, particularly the member round tables are complimentary. The spring legal roundup is different, and there is a cost. I believe it's $25 under your package.
Per person?
Yes. By the way, the member roundtables are March 5th at Central Monco Tech High School, which is very close. If you can't attend that, it's March 6th at Lehigh Carbon Community College. They're both 6 to 8 p.m.
Are there any more questions for Ms. Hayes?
Not a question for you, Dr. Zerbe. I believe in the board memo you had given us that the increase in cost for us, a net increase, would be about $1,200. Is that close?
If that was the math on the document, I don't recall the numbers.
Okay.
But if that's what we sent you, then that was what we got from PSBA.
Okay. Just in case this becomes a voting item in the future, I want to make sure that
that is accurate. I have the document now. Okay. That is what we said.
Yes.
I just want to make sure that the public has that information if we're going to vote on this later. Thank you.
Absolutely. Is that everything? Just know I'm just down the road if you have any additional questions, please.
Thank you so much for your time this evening.
You're very welcome.
And we move on to reports.
Yep, let's move on to reports. Finance Committee, Mr. Ryan.
Okay, the Finance Committee met on February 14th at 6:30 p.m., actually 7:05 p.m. The meeting was recorded by a resident of the district, Dr. Malik from Worcester Township. In attendance were all members of the committee, in addition to Mr. Bricker and Dr. Zerbe. The first thing, as always, is our monthly financial report review with a list of bills, the treasurer's report, budgetary transfers, and the expenditure and revenue reports. One item to note at the work session, I did have Mr. Bricker try to provide a little bit of more information in terms of the budgetary transfers. There were significantly more than we're used to seeing, and I just wanted a little bit of commentary around that. The first of the discussion topics that evening was the capital campaign and the field project accounts. Mr. Earnshaw had asked that this be added to the agenda. Discussion focused on whether or not there would need to continue to be a need for the TD athletic field replacement account, as well as the TD capital campaign account. Rationale for closing the field replacement account was that there was only 1 year where the district did set aside money, and that the district currently doesn't have any other special escrow accounts for specific needs. The committee charged the administration with looking into this and coming back with a recommendation in the future. The committee also discussed the possibility of rolling the capital campaign account into the overall capital reserve account. The next update was a quick update on the budget. Mr. Bricker went over the second look for the medical and prescriptions. These were actually came in just after the meeting, so we didn't have them available then. They have since come in, and we will be updating the budget numbers for a March budget presentation. The second item was the Montgomery County Intermediate Unit 2018-2019 Member Services Budget. This item was gone over in detail at the work session last week. There was also a brief discussion about the general fund budget review. I had requested follow-up information regarding several specific function and objects within the preliminary 2018-2019 general fund budget. This was in an effort to better understand variances to prior years and to identify any areas where the district could lower costs. Also questioned were the budgetary transfer amounts and the budgetary reserve. These will continue to be questions moving forward as the Finance Committee gets closer to June and the final adoption of the budget. Next up was the mileage rate approval. This was discussed at the work session. It's an increase to the mileage reimbursement rate up to 54.5 cents per mile. This reflects a 1 cent increase, and we will make this effective in March 1st, 2018. Next up was the repository tax property sale approvals, another item that we talked about at the work session. There were 2 property tax sale approvals that we're discussing. Both of those items are listed on the agenda for this evening. The prior assessed value of the one property was $4,760, with a new assessed value to be $500. The second property had a prior assessed value of $4,720, with a new assessed value of $500. Next up that evening was the governor's budget address and legislative matters. Mr. Bricker mentioned that the governor's proposed budget for next year, they made a presentation on that. Based on the fact that this is just a proposed budget at this point and the issues with the state has had with passing a budget on time, the district will not adjust our estimates at this point for next year's budget. If the budget were approved as presented by the governor, the district would receive approximately $100,000 more through basic and special education funding combined. Dr. Zerbe briefly mentioned 2 legislative matters that are being discussed in Harrisburg, which would have an effect on the Methacton School District. The first was the education savings account. The board is very familiar with this topic as it did pass a resolution last month. The second topic was a legislative topic, was reverse tax appeals. This topic is not new in Harrisburg. We've been hearing about this for years. It will again be discussed in state committee and may be brought up for a vote in the very near future. Dr. Zerbe, on behalf of Methacton and other area superintendents, were considering sending letters to local representatives opposing this measure. Next up was the Auditor RFP. The Auditor RFP is almost complete, and the district is hoping to get this out soon. And finally, we had a brief discussion about the Finance Committee profile. This is something that the Policy Committee is currently working on, trying to get each committee to review their own profile to make sure that it's accurate. Finally, we had courtesy of the floor. Mrs. Albach commented that in regards to the Finance Committee profile, the committee should at least meet in months that the school is in session, September through June. Also commented that the money located in the escrow account for the fields should remain there. She mentioned a Penn State study regarding turf fields, and the district really should make sure that there's money to repair/replace the fields in the future, and that this would probably be sooner than the 10 years that have been previously mentioned. Also, after Dr. Malik spoke, she questioned whether the consortium transitioned from Blue Cross to Aetna, and that if so, it would be trouble for the district based on prior experiences. And finally, we had Dr. Malik. Dr. Malik questioned Dr. Zerbe in regards to the legislation regarding reverse tax appeals and the negative impact it would have on the district if the current proposal did become law, considering the district's current escrow for the Shenandoah property. Dr. Malik mentioned he had heard that it will in fact pass according to sources that he had. He also questioned the review of so many of the smaller variances in regards to the general fund budget, while the main focus should be on the teacher's contract. He stated that if the districts didn't get that right, nothing else really mattered. The meeting adjourned at 8:34 p.m. Thank you.
Property Committee, Mr. Navarrete.
This one was a marathon, so I hope the minutes will be shorter. The meeting was called to order at 6:30 p.m. In attendance were Mr. Navarrete, Mr. Earnshaw, Mrs. Hull, Mrs. Reese, Dr. Zerbe, Mr. Bricker, and Mr. Fretz. Guests that evening were Mr. Eric Fry of Dishel Bartle Dooley, Mr. Dan Sakala of Fidavia, Mr. James Miller of Fidavia, Mr. Phil Leinbach from AEM, and Chris Van Kampen from Consolidated Engineers. Up for discussion, the master plan. Mr. Sakala and Mr. Miller presented the committee with an updated accounting of estimated 2018 master plan project costs including modifications requested in the January committee meeting. Regarding the timeline, Mr. Fretz noted that the bids for the master plan work for the summer of 2018 would be reviewed at the March 12, 2018 committee meeting. On to capital projects. At the high school, the MEP project, Mr. Fretz and Mr. Miller reviewed the scope of mechanical, electrical, and plumbing work for the high school, including replacement of the rooftop HVAC units, electrical and sound system repairs, and fire system upgrades. The committee debated the necessity of acoustic paneling and the recommended acoustical baseline testing. The committee voted 3-1 to pass the tested recommendation forward to the full board for approval. Mr. Earnshaw opposed. Also, it was noted that start date of the work has been pushed back to June 18th due to the projected impacts of snow days. The completion date for the project will not change. For the roofing project and the asbestos management, Mr. Fretz and Mr. Miller presented the recommended roofing and ACM proposals for bid package preparation, contract administration, asbestos testing, and construction inspection of the high school roof. The committee voted unanimously to pass the recommendation forward. The masonry project, Mr. Fretz and Mr. Miller presented their analysis of RFP responses for bid package development and contract administration services over the 2 years of foundation repairs and masonry restoration work to be done at the high school. The committee voted unanimously to pass the recommendation of Shepherd Restoration forward to the board. The tab and commissioning, Mr. Fretz and Mr. Miller presented the recommended proposal for inspection services on the LGI HVAC system. This work follows on concerns identified in previous inspections, and the committee voted unanimously to pass the recommendations forward to the full board. On the high school pool, Mr. Fretz provided a brief update on the progress of the work occurring in the high school auditorium. At Arcola, the auditorium, Mr. Leinbach gave a very extensive presentation on the scope, schedule, and budget for the Arcola auditorium renovations, which are expected to cost approximately $3.5 million. He estimated that 90% of the identified work is directly related to the age of the building. It was also noted that many of the work items are being pulled forward from future years of the master plan in order to minimize the total amount of time the auditorium is out of service for student programming. Mr. Miller will be bringing to the March committee meeting an accounting of which work items are new versus previously planned. The current completion date for the auditorium work is projected to be November 30th, but an alternate bid response has been requested to complete work by October 30th. For the roofing and ACM work at Arcola, Mr. Fretz and Mr. Miller presented the recommended proposals for asbestos inspection and testing of certain sections of the Arcola roof. The committee voted unanimously to pass those recommendations forward to the board. The tab commissioning project was eliminated from the agenda. And regarding the Eagleville Elementary School windows, Mr. Sakala updated the committee on his discussions with the Eagleville architect, who indicated that the wall structure was not constructed according to their plans. The district's course of action will be determined after consultation with the solicitor. Finally, well, not finally, we kept going. Regarding the preliminary options for Audubon and Arrowhead, Dr. Zerbe presented a high-level summary of potential paths forward for both the Audubon and Arrowhead facilities, including recommended next actions. For Audubon, the administration recommended that the board approve a property appraisal to determine its potential value and assist the board in determining whether to keep, sell, or donate the property. Mr. Fry estimated an appraisal cost of $3,900 to $6,200 based on similar recent appraisals he has contracted for other clients. The committee voted unanimously to pass the recommendation to the full board for a vote on February 27th and requested that if approved, it be moved forward with haste. It was noted during discussions that it cost the district approximately $144,000 annually in insurance, labor, and utilities to maintain Audubon in its current state. If the building were to be kept, renovations would cost a minimum of approximately $12 million per master plan estimates. Repurposing of the building for other uses could impact that figure. For Arrowhead, the committee reviewed the options to renovate the current building, build a new school, or close the building. The committee and administration unanimously agreed that the option to close Arrowhead would not be pursued further. It was noted that more than $12 million in repairs are planned for Arrowhead, but have been postponed to 2020 pending a decision on the building's future. The ballpark cost of a new building was estimated by Fidavia at $20 to $25 million, including demolition of the existing structure. The committee accepted Fidavia's offer to develop, at no charge, concept drawings of how or if a new building could be constructed around the current school. Those drawings are expected at the March 12th committee meeting. Additionally, the administration recommended updating enrollment projections before any final decision on either property is made. Malone and McBroom have quoted an update of the 16-month-old projections at $3,250 for a 3-week turnaround. It was noted during the meeting that there was good agreement between M&M's 27-18 projection of 1,659 elementary students and the last reported enrollment of 1,675 students on February 1st. The administration and the committee unanimously agreed to delay the update until we are closer to a decision point. Building projects for the 2018-19 budget. The updated administrative project list was provided to the committee. Finally, the last three items, the flyway survey, which involves the high school grounds. Mr. Miller provided a summary of expected costs for the final surveys associated with the high school stormwater project. There are sufficient funding allowance to cover these survey costs. On the Mill Road reimbursement, Dr. Zerbe informed the committee that Worcester Township has again requested payment of an approximately $4,000 invoice related to repairs made on Mill Road. The committee debated the merits of the request, including the fact that the full board had already considered the invoice on September 26, 2017, and rejected it 6-2. Although the committee was split on whether the invoice should be paid, it unanimously approved moving it forward to the board for further deliberation. And finally, on the committee profile, that committee profile was briefly reviewed, and all changes were requested to be sent to Mr. Navarrete, that's me, who will forward to Dr. Zerbe and the policy committee for approval. And then finally, we got to transportation. We discussed the routing contract for First Student. Dr. Zerbe and Mr. Bricker presented the proposed contract with First Student for student transportation routing services. The committee discussion included software licensing, route approval, delivery timelines, routing parameters, complaint reporting, compensation, and penalties for nonconformance. The committee unanimously agreed to forward the amended contract to the full board for approval at the February 14th special meeting. Finally, we discussed deliverables for a committee meeting, since this committee is a new committee. The committee briefly discussed desired deliverables for the administration, but postponed further discussion due to the late hour. Finally, in courtesy of the floor, Candy Alabac of Lower Providence expressed concerns about the conditions of roofs at Arcola and the high school, requested clarification on the condition of the windows at Eagleville, suggested that the district should pay the $4,000 invoice from Worcester, and noted that past housing developments in Lower Providence had not led to increased enrollment. Jim Mollick of Worcester questioned why the Arcola auditorium seating was being refurbished, asked what the largest contributors were to the $3.5 million spend for the Arcola auditorium. Those costs were read aloud, and expressed concern about enrollment at Arrowhead in 5 to 7 years. He stated that because of recent turnover in the Worcester Board of Supervisors, he didn't believe there would be any retaliatory action against the district for refusing to pay the invoice, and requested that the committee members' information packets be made available to the public prior to the meeting. Michelle Kirshner of Lower Providence asked when the latest air quality check was done at Arrowhead because of mold concerns. Mr. Fretz replied that none had been done recently, but he would follow up. Jen Zavertnik of Lower Providence suggested a scenario for rebuilding Arrowhead, whereby the district would swap properties with Lower Providence and build a new school at Warrior Field, then turn over the current Arrowhead property after demolition. And finally, we adjourned the meeting at 11 p.m. I yield.
Thank you, Mr. Navarrete, and all the members of the Property and Transportation Committee that hung in there for that long meeting. Education Committee, Ms. Reese.
Before I start, these gentlemen's committee minutes made me remind just Dr. Katona of something from March. I didn't want anyone thinking I'm passing notes in class. So here I go. The Education Committee met on February 5th at 6:30. All members were in attendance. First up, Dr. Zerbe did announce that there was an executive session on January 25th. First up on our agenda was a update on the elementary math and ELA implementation, a lengthy review of the Math in Focus and Wonders implementation, past, present, and future, was given with Ms. Golden and Ms. Amici in attendance for questions. Math emphasized the number talks, 2 math specialists, and demo lessons. Excuse me. Wonders emphasized balanced literacy and close reading, as well as the challenges the district has faced with this implementation. The discussion centered around what is being done to rectify issues. The main fixes will be providing more teacher manuals, classroom novels for student use, working with John Slagle, who is a balanced literacy expert, providing and analyzing additional support as needed, continued communication with publisher to fix errors within the program. Next was a 3-year technology roadmap. Mr. Ganesh went through 4 main topics: the last 4 years, the current year, and the next 3 years, and the budget. Some of the highlights included Power School one-to-one initiative, which will be completed next year when all grades 7 to 12 are complete. Google certification, currently 29 staff are certified. Google Apps, wireless infrastructure, and professional development. The future emphasized the need for a new telephone system to replace the 20-plus-year-old system, collaboration with K-12 career counselor, review of elementary technology vision, and upgrades as needed. Logistically, there have been some exciting improvements, including online registration and withdrawal, as well as more access to information via Power School, such as to transportation and lunch account balances. Keep an eye out on School Messenger for important updates. Next up was secondary teacher on assignment position recommendations and possible future job descriptions. A request was made for a math and ELA literacy teacher of assignment that can assist with secondary areas, similar to what is used for K-5 now. The committee has agreed there is a need and will move forward requesting job descriptions. There is a budget concern. However, 2 LTS positions will cost approximately $100,000. Next up was an update on the strategic plan focus area 1, which focuses on student growth and achievement, staff development, pupil services, and educational technology. Dr. Engstead also went over the December 1st child count update. This is centered around IDEA funding. Currently, and this number changes consistently, but as of that evening, it was 843 students, which is an increase of 33 students. A comprehensive plan update was given. Special education is on a 3-year cycle for a federal summary. District currently working on it, and when it is complete, it will be brought to the board to allow for a 30-day review by the public. The enrollment report was reviewed as always. Courtesy of the floor. Ginny Geis reiterated the need to revise Policy 201. Several educators, including Jenny Geis, Kit Markle, Diana Kernop, and Kathy Mahan, expressed their concerns with Wonders. They shared with the committee the concerns they have shared with administration. They expressed concern that ELA instruction needed to be provided well for the children. The discussion was lengthy, and they expressed appreciation that the district was working to alleviate their concerns, but reiterated there is much work still to be done. Ralph Neverett emphasized the need to communicate regarding Power School additions, gave further comment on teacher on assignment request, and expressed concern and offered ideas regarding Wonders. We adjourned at 9:30.
Thank you, Ms. Reese. And on to policy, Ms. Hull.
The Policy Committee met on Wednesday, February 7th. The meeting was called to order at 6:30 p.m. All committee members were in attendance, myself, Ms. Aubrey Larsenis, Mr. Earnshaw, Mr. Ryan, and Dr. Zerbe. The committee moved 8 policies forward to first read, as you will see tonight. 3 were from prior discussion in January. 5 policies were moved forward from first discussion. The committee is holding 4 policies to the March meeting for further discussion, including 814, copyright material, 817, energy management, 006, meetings, and 903, public participation in board meetings, to collect additional information. The Policy Committee has requested that each committee review their committee profiles and submit changes as needed prior to the March meeting. In old and new business, we discussed Policy 141, school-related organizations, and the wording of deadlines for proposed budgets. During courtesy of the floor, Dr. Malik commented on Policy 903 in reference to time limits on speaking as well as videotaping, and Policy 011, board governance, as promoting promoting dialogue among board, staff, and community. The meeting adjourned at 9:10 p.m.
Thank you, Ms. Hull. Intermediate unit, Mr. Winters.
Yes, this is my first meeting as a representative, so there's lots of things that are discussed, but I tried to pull forward just the key elements. So there's 22 schools that were represented on the 24th of January, meeting at the IU at 6:15. There are 8 new board members as a result of the election and some resignations, and currently the board rotation has 12 of these 21 active board members. having their terms expire on June of 2018. Methacton is one of those school districts. IU is going to propose a more balanced board rotation. It is possible, if agreed, the next Methacton term will not be a 3-year term, so that board rotation could be more of a rotating basis between all the school districts. On the finances side, budgets are sort of sprinkled along the way as they complete them. One of the things we're voting on today is the district membership services. Also, budgets were approved for the Office of Technology Services and Head Start. Also approved was a $400,000 transfer from the general fund to the capital funds. This was related to a bond refinancing similar to ours in December 2017. The IU also agreed to provide Methacton a 40-hour support block for system administration for the period of December 5th through June 30th, 2018, an amount of $3,750. So from the Office of Community and Government Relations update, there's a lot to discuss. The federal CHIP program, I think it's changed in the meantime, but at this point the U.S. Senate had put in a motion for the continued funding of the CHIP program for 6 years. The Tax Cuts and Jobs Act, which was approved in December, does have implications on higher education related to the deductions of the $10,000 deduction, which puts pressure on state and local governments to cut their own taxes in view of facing higher tax bills related to lower deduction capabilities. On the Pennsylvania side, the 2019 budget, which was mentioned also by Mike, the House and Senate Appropriation Committees will be hold hearings to review the proposal and agency requests. The Pennsylvania Department of Education is scheduled to testify on March 5th and 6th, and the Pennsylvania Association of Intermediate Units was scheduled to testify on February 20th. I assume they did. For the revenue for 17-18, there's a concern related to the Pennsylvania's budget of $241 million in revenue related to a very optimistic view of new gaming expansion on the revenue side for the state of Pennsylvania. The state plan under the Every Student Succeeds Act, the ESSA, the U.S. Department of Education approved Pennsylvania's plan in January, and highlight of some of those changes include, and this may go over very well, a 20% reduction in PSSA testing time to begin this year, with a testing window moved back next year. Expansion in using non-academic measures for school success, and also a Troops to Teachers grant awarded to support the transition of veterans into education workforce. Just a couple more here. K-12 computer science standards. In January, the State Board approved the resolution endorsing the K-12 computer science standards developed by the Computer Science Teachers Association. The board encourages local education groups to voluntarily adapt these standards to guide their practice and delivery of computer science instruction. The education savings accounts, which was Senate Bill 2, we discussed, and we had a resolution on that, so I'll skip past that a little bit. And then the last one was interesting, the reduction in PA legislative districts. There's a movement in the legislature to shrink the size of the Pennsylvania House from 201 members to 151 members after the 2020 census. This is House Bill 153, and this would eventually require a referendum. That concludes my notes. I don't know, they're definitely not minutes, they're notes.
We appreciate all the information, Mr. Winters. Thank you. North Montco Technical Career Center, Ms. Reese, are you providing the report?
I am, but we do need to add Ms. Drummond's name here for the next meeting. We met on February 21st. First up on the agenda was to discuss the fact that 950 people came to the open house on February 15th. It was very well attended, very well received, very well organized, and it just goes to show you that Technical Career Center is going places, and it certainly is a wonderful addition to our schools. I had mentioned last time that Dr. Volkman from the Pennsylvania Department of Education would be coming to the Career Center on, the Tech Center on February 1st, and he did come. They were able to talk a lot with him about purchasing and the way it's done differently in Montgomery County and the PA Future Ready Index, and basically, they did receive good news about future equipment purchases, so they were very pleased with the visit. On a lighter note, there are 2 announcements. There is Breakfast with Bunny on Saturday, March 17th, and this includes breakfast. So breakfast, photo, etc. So you can look on their website for that. And there is also a German dinner on Saturday, March 24th, and you can look on their website for that as well. And the only other mention, these meetings are not that well attended, but in case anyone is coming, the March 19th meeting and also the April and May will start at 5 versus 7. So if you need to mark your calendars, please do so.
Thank you, Ms. Reese. Student board representatives.
So starting with theater, on February 22nd, 23rd, and 24th, the Matheson Theater Company performed The Sound of Music, and the group had been rehearsing since December, and the show was a huge success and received very positive reviews. Also, the Mr. Matheson Competition will take place on this Friday, March 2nd, and senior boys will compete in categories like casual wear and talent to win the title of Mr. Matheson. And also, the Matheson Mini-thon will take place on March 16th, and students will take part in activities and stand up from 2 to 10 in support of pediatric cancer, and all of the money is donated to the Four Diamonds Fund.
The Mhs Senior Banquet is going to be held next Thursday, March 8th at Normandy Farms. Seniors have a night full of dinner, dancing, and they find out who wins the senior superlatives. And this event is run by the Senior Class Congress. There's an indoor drum and guard competition Saturday, March 10th from 4 to 10 p.m. in the Mhs gym. Students involved invite all community members to stop by and watch their performance. And the Mhs Spring Jamboree is going to be held on Thursday, March 22nd from 7:30 p.m. to 9:30 p.m. in the Arcola Auditorium.
Thank you very much. Communications, Ms. Lynch.
I'm pleased to announce that the Matheson Education Foundation has hired Nikki Krelovich as its new executive director. Ms. Krelovich is an 18-year Worcester Township resident and the mother of 2 Worcester elementary students. I see his hand out like Nikki's here. Yay! She got a haircut. It looks so nice. All right. And mother of 2 Worcester Elementary School students, and she's a very active district volunteer and home and school leader. Ms. Krelovich will oversee the daily operations of the Matheson Education Foundation and manage the group's fund development and marketing efforts. I look forward to working with Nikki in this new role. A few special events to mention to the board as we look to the spring Matheson Art Show. I'd like to mention that the Community Education Program Senior Citizens Breakfast and Art Show preview event wherein area seniors enjoy breakfast, followed by a private showing of the high school's amazing art show will take place. This weekend will also feature Arcola's student production of Shrek the Musical Junior on Friday, March 2nd at 7 p.m. and Saturday, March 3rd at 1 and 7 p.m. Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Lynch. Superintendent's report, Dr. Zerbe.
Thank you, Ms. President. This evening, I just want to share a few notes on the agenda that are different from the work session, just so the board and the public are apprised. On page 8 of 9, under 13, under other, number 9, a gift of food from Lower Providence Optimist Club used for the Skyview Upper Elementary backpack program of $150 was added to the agenda between the 2 meetings. In addition, on page 7 of 9, under 10P, the establishment of a fulfillment specialist position per the attached job description at a rate of $30.18. I want the board to understand, as the public as well, that this is a new position, which is a combination, a recommended combination of 2 positions that, if approved this evening, there will be 2 positions under the Teamsters agreement that would be recommended for removal. And this person this position will be consolidated under the rate that's listed here. The reason the rate's listed is because while the Teamsters agreement has been approved by the board and the Teamsters. It did not include this category as a position, and therefore this is the established starting rate for that position, and therefore will carry through under the terms and conditions in that Teamsters contract. If there's any further questions about that, we can answer that, and Dr. Sosnova can do so when it comes time to address those matters. In addition, we had provided updates for your review and approval tonight under the cabinet job descriptions. Also on page 6 of 9, there was a new item, approve the supplemental contracts in the amount of $11,977.36 for the outdoor education sponsors per attached. Please know that you also recognize on page 8 and page 9 of the agenda that there are approved trips for the outdoor education program, and they list no cost. So just to be clear, the outdoor education program does pay for itself through contributions by students and through other entities, and the outdoor education program pays the district back after we pay our employees to chaperone and to work with the students during that activity, just to be clear on that. Also on page 5 of 9, number 3, approve the supplemental contracts in the amount of $1,862.20 for the mentors as the attached. These are our mentors that is new. This is a typical item that you will find on an annual agenda in February of each year. And then lastly, there's a minor adjustment because some of the positions were filled between our work session and this board meeting. That's on item number 2 under K, page 5 of 9. Actually, we added 2 additional positions which increased the cost from the work session agenda of $106,445.84 to the now $110,725.32. So just to understand the differences there. And last of the additions on page 4 of 9, the non-binding arbitration approval. And with that, I'll turn the microphone over to our president.
Thank you, Dr. Zerbe. On February 21st, 2018, the Methacton Board of School Directors and the Methacton Education Association, MEA, received the decision/recommendation from the 3-member non-binding arbitration panel for contract negotiations, composed of an MEA-appointed arbitrator, a Board of School Directors-appointed arbitrator, and a mutually agreed-upon neutral arbitrator. The panel of 3 arbitrators drafted a unanimous recommendation to be acted upon within 10 days by both parties under the provisions of the law. The decision contains a confidentiality clause which reads as follows. Confidentiality of the decision/recommendation should be maintained during the 10-day consideration period or until this decision and recommendation is ratified or rejected by the association or accepted or rejected by the board, whichever comes first. The confidentiality clause therefore precludes the board from posting details or otherwise presenting all or part of the decision/recommendation at this time. As part of the arbitration process, feedback from the public was received in September and October of 2017. This feedback was shared with the arbitration panel during the hearing. The board then met with our solicitor for contracts in an executive session on February 22nd, where he reviewed the arbitration decision/recommendation. It was recommended by the solicitor for contract negotiations to schedule a vote on the matter this evening. Following the vote, regardless of the outcome, the confidentiality clause in the arbitration decision/recommendation will no longer apply, and the document will be shared with the public. A final presentation will be prepared for and shared at the March work session. With that, we'll move on to public comment on board action items.
Hello.
Just state your name and township of residence for the record.
Okay, my name is Scott Meyer, and I'm Lower Providence. I wanted to speak on item 10K1, and that is the voting on the new coach, David Latier. I am the new president of the Matheson Parents Football Club, so we'll be working closely with the new coach if the vote goes positively to elect him, and we work with the team for planning, fundraising, and I just wanted to recognize the efforts to have that process move forward quickly and to thank the board for bringing this to a vote in a timely fashion. As in the resignation, I believe, was December 4th of LaPree, so it moved pretty quickly as far as I'm concerned. So that's pretty much it. All right, thanks.
John Andrews, Lower Providence. I have a few items. On the list of bills, I think on page 1, there's a vendor identified as Branch Medical Group in the amount of $57,000 plus, described as a refund of real estate taxes. Is that a property reassessment? Can anyone answer that question?
We're actually going to capture all of your questions and answer them when we get to those items in the agenda.
All right, I didn't realize that was in the agenda. The other item is a vendor by the name of 3B Services for about $4,000 for water heater repairs. What bothers me is that that's an outfit in Reading, and again, I would think that for water heater repairs, that not a one of you would go out to Reading to have your water heater repaired. Because of that, there are certainly local vendors, and we end up paying for travel time. Also, with regard to that, there's a voting item this evening for the Wilkes-Barre outfit for inspections during the re-roofing at the high school. And again, that's an outfit that's 100 miles away, and if they come to inspect the work, let's say 3 times a week for a couple months, we're paying for an awful lot of travel, and I think that item should be put up for bid. There's no urgency to vote on that this evening. The work probably won't begin, the roof work won't begin until June, and between February and June there's time to put that one out to bid. With regard to the arbitrator's recommendations, of course, I don't know the facts that are confidential, but the board's best and final offer last year had salary costs increasing 3.2% the first year, 5.1% the second year, and 3.3% the third year. And that 5.1% is at least twice what the index is. And our taxes are limited in increase by the index. So, I just don't know how we can afford a 5.1% salary increase and the benefits that go along with that. So, how we got there, I don't know, but
Mr. Andrews, I
yes.
need you to wrap up, please.
Yes. And our taxes are already high. For instance, our taxes are 50% more than in Wissahickon. Our student costs per student are high in the local area. We have huge renovation expenses. And also with regard to the MEA contract, where we have the solicitor present, I'm wondering, are there any board members that, based on law, should be abstaining? And it just boggles my mind that one of the directors, because she's a teacher in a local district could not participate in the negotiations, but she can participate in the contract vote. And then we have another director whose wife is a Matheson teacher, and certainly they could abstain, but I'm wondering what are the requirements in the law.
Mr. Andrews,
Yes.
please wrap up.
Yes. With regard to that, Ms. Larson-East, the Sunshine Act allows a reasonable time for presentations by the public on items to be voted on. It's not the same as your 3-minute rule for courtesy of the floor.
This board's policy has been to adhere to the 3-minute time limit.
This board's policy then
I
is
do
in
kindly ask you-
violation of the Sunshine Act.
Okay, I kindly
Thank
ask you to
you.
wrap it up. Thank you. Mr. Bickelman.
Joe Bickelman from Lower Providence, Audubon. Did the MEA vote on the arbitrators thing yet? Non-binding arbitration?
We're not certain of the outcome of
Are
the
you going to
vote.
let them vote first? No? And is it, are you legally bound not to disclose the arbitrators? Is that a legal thing that you can't talk about it? You're not allowed legally to make the presentation to the public before you vote?
I'm sorry, we're going to wait until we get to that item in the agenda so that we're not
Okay.
going back and forth.
I just need to know if you're legally bound or not to say anything. Because I'd like to see the presentation. And it said that you should maintain confidentiality. It doesn't say you shall, right? You should. So the other thing I have about the salary increases that John mentioned in the MEA agreement that the board offered, the board does know that the index is 2.4%. The Act 1 index is 2.4% that you can raise real estate taxes. And those percentages that John mentioned are well above that, and the percentages you gave the custodial contract were above that also. And the 2.4% is based on the increases in the state average weekly wage and elementary and secondary cost index. So that's 2.4%. You know, to have a 5% raise in there is just out of line. And the other thing that the board knows is you've seen your 5-year projection. Okay, I go to the meetings, and the 5-year projection is scary. You know, it's a scary thing. You know, there's a lot of big deficits out there. You see that presentation up there, and there's a lot of big deficits there, and the salary thing will just carry on through. And then the retirement, oh my God, you know, the retirement increases, you hear about that all the time. That's scary too. So there's a lot of big retirement increases there. So I don't think the board should be approving these exorbitant salary increases like 5% when the index is only 2.4%. But you did give the custodians 3.1%, and the administrators will probably be right behind the 5. Okay, so you need to address those issues because they're bigger. They're bigger than the tax increases. That's what drives your tax increases. And you've seen the 5-year projection. You've seen that presented to you in budget meetings. So just want you to keep that in mind.
Hello. My name is Elizabeth Pascaldo. I'm in Worcester Township. I have 2 quick things I just wanted to get some clarity on. One is the supplemental contracts, and I did see that the list for the coaching staff has been posted for the spring and the salaries. And there's several vacancies on that list. One in particular that I'm concerned with is the spring varsity girls track coach position, which has been open for quite some time, and the season starts on Monday. So I'm just wondering what the school district is doing to recruit good coaches and in a timely fashion so the kids aren't faced with the season starting on Monday without a coach. It seems like the football coach position was expedited and done very quickly, but there's other positions that are just kind of hanging out there.
I'll make sure that that gets addressed when we get to the personnel items on the agenda.
Okay, great, thanks. And then the other one, real quick, is under resignations, there seems to be quite a few teachers at the high school level that have resigned mid-year this year or left for whatever reason, and there's a lot of long-term subs in place. My daughter has been affected by several of these in the high school. She's in 9th grade. And now a 3rd teacher actually today is going out on a leave for illness. So I'm just kind of wondering what we're doing for long-term subs and actually replacing those positions for the teachers that have left, because now my daughter has 3 subs in 3 very important subjects, and I don't see anything happening. Thanks.
Elizabeth, I'm sorry, I didn't catch your last name. I'd like to...
It's Fuscaldo, F-U-S-C-A-L-D-O.
Thank you.
Thanks.
Jim Malik, Worcester. So I have your position straight. Over the next 4 years, you're going to spend $250 million, and you're not going to tell us anything right now? Is that your position? You don't have to say a thing to the public right now. You're going to take a vote in maybe half an hour, and you're going to just stiff the public? Is that what you're really going to tell us right now? Going to spend $250 million, and you're not going to let us comment? Because I can't make a comment. Zero information to the public on you spending $250 million. Zero information. How do I make a comment with no information? Can you tell me? I don't know whether you're going to approve it. I don't know what's in it. How does one make a reasonable comment on what you guys are doing? Can you tell me? Anybody? Talk about backroom deal. This is called the Backroom Deal Board. $250 million. Everybody's got a kid that goes here. People married to teachers. Can you tell me who's on the negotiating team? Can somebody tell me who's on the negotiating team?
If you have a public comment on a board action item, I can answer it when we get to that.
I'll tell you who's on the negotiating team. Mr. Winters is. His wife's on the casual on call. She does work for the district. How's that for a conflict? Anybody here, anybody on the negotiating team take money from the PSEA? How about that one? I know some of the care people take money from the PSEA. What's going on in the back room? How many people in the back room, how many people have been excluded from being in the back room? How about that one? 4? How about that one? No? Okay. The property committee. Mr. Andrews is right. You guys are violating the Sunshine Law. Property committee gave us 2 opportunities to give, Mr. Navarrete gave us 2 opportunities to make public comment prior to the courtesy of the floor.
I'm sorry, are these comments on a public or on a board action item for this evening?
Yeah, they're on the way you conduct your meeting.
That's not a voting item for tonight. Do you have a comment on a board action item?
Yeah. What's the action item I'm talking about? The property committee meeting minutes.
That wasn't an action item.
Yes, it is. Approval of the meeting minutes. Did I get that right? You're going to approve the minutes, aren't you? Well, he didn't put it in his minutes. He left it out. You know why? Because I said he was the only one that's following Board Policy 903. That's why it's relevant. He's the only one following your board policy, which says that you shall take public comment prior to each official action, which you're not doing. You're violating your own board policy.
Could you please wrap up?
Sure, I'll wrap up. You guys are a disgrace. This is a real problem. $250 million, you're violating your own board policy, and you despise the First Amendment. This is a violation of the First Amendment. It's a violation of the Sunshine Law, and I'm going to object right now under 710.1C again for multiple reasons. Number one, what you're doing right now with the teacher's contract or whatever this non-binding arbitration thing is you're denying the public a reasonable opportunity to comment on the non-binding agreement. Because we can't give public comment. We don't even know what's in it. So you guys could find yourself having your whole agreement null and void. Number two, not following your board policy 903. Because if you look, there's something like 12 or 13 action items on the agenda. You're giving me 12 seconds an action item. That's not enough time.
Dr. Malik, I've been more than generous, but I'm going to ask again that you please wrap up.
Well, let me finish my objection. Let me finish. So you guys are violating your own board policy. As I've told you over and over again, Mr. Andrews was correct. But more importantly, what you're doing with this non-binding arbitration thing can be null and void because you're not allowing the public to give proper comment. Thanks.
Anyone else for public comment on board action items this evening? Okay. Board meeting minutes. Can I have a motion to approve the board meeting minutes from the work session held on January 16th, 2018, and the board meeting minutes held on January 23rd, 2018? And please note, there are meeting minutes that will be on the March agenda for a special meeting that was held on February 14th, so don't think that we forgot them. So can I get a motion to approve these minutes? Ms. Reese, and a second, Ms. Drummond. Any comments from the board? Okay, all those in favor? Okay, unanimous. Moving on to fiscal items. Mr. Bricker.
Thank you, Madam President. Tonight for your approval, we have the list of bills, the Treasurer's Report, budgetary transfers, the MCIU budget, Matheson School District's portion of $74,270, which results in a reduction of $470. Mileage reimbursement rate of 54.5 cents per mile effective March 1st, 2018. 2 repository tax property sales for approval. The approval of appraisal services by Indian Valley Appraisers at a cost of $4,200. This is an as-is and highest best use appraisal. 8 contracts for the 2018 Master Plan capital projects. And finally, approval tonight to approve the decision recommendation resulting from the non-binding final best offer arbitration.
Okay, I'm going to do my best to try to break these out in a manner that makes sense. Can I get a motion to approve items A, B, and C? So this would be the list of bills, the Treasurer's Report, and the budgetary transfers. Neverett? Can I get a second? Mr. Earnshaw. We'll have comments from the board, and then Mr. Bricker, if you could also address some of the questions that we had from the audience this evening, that would be appreciated. Well, yeah, I guess we'll start with that. So do you need me to review any of the questions?
No, so for the list of bills, the question was the Branch Medical Group, a $57,000 refund. This is a tax appeal assessment where the assessment was reduced, and therefore we were required to pay the tax reduction back to the taxpayer. As to the location of where the vendors come from, that's really a determination through facilities as to who they feel is the best and appropriate person, and or through bids.
Thank you, Mr. Bricker. Do we have any other comments from the board?
I would just like to reiterate, only because the audience is always so much bigger at the voting meeting than it is the work session. So I will just reiterate again that we do ask a lot of questions and have a lot of discussion during the work sessions. So I just like to reiterate that, because it always, when I used to sit out there, I used to be like, how come they're not discussing this? It's because a lot of the discussion did occur the week prior, or at committee.
Thank you, Ms. Reese. Okay, so can I say all those in favor of approving items A, B, and C under fiscal? Okay, that passes. Okay, I apologize. Having not been here for the work session, I'm not 100% sure which of these are going to be the most contentious, so I'm just going to take them all one at a time. Can I get a motion to approve the MCIU membership services budget for 2018-19 as presented? Okay, in a second. Any comments from the board? Okay, all those in favor? Okay, the motion passes. Can I get a motion to approve the mileage reimbursement rate as presented? Can I get a second? Okay, any discussion?
Just real quick, I think Mike's, your minutes said January 1st. I'm just trying to understand which is the date.
Excuse me.
For the mileage.
Yeah, so it started off as the recommendation was going to be retroactive back to January 1st. Upon discussion at the committee meeting, that date was changed to March 1st.
Okay, thank you for that clarification. Any other comments or discussion? Okay, all those in favor? Any opposed? No. Okay, can I have a motion to approve the repository tax sale as presented? Mr. Winters, can I have a second? Mr. Navarrete. Any comments from the board? Seeing none. All those in favor? Motion passes. Can I have a motion to approve Indian Valley Appraisers of Solderton for property appraisal services as presented? Mr. Winters, a second. Any comments from the board? Okay, all those in favor? None opposed, passes. Can I have a motion to approve the 2018 Master Plan capital projects, items 1 through 8 as presented?
On this item, could we take H1 separately, please?
Absolutely. Can I get a motion to approve items 2 through 8 as presented for the capital projects? Mr. Navarrete, second. Ms. Drummond. Any comments from the board on 2 through 8?
I just have one question relating to the roofing consultant from Wilkes-Barre. Could anyone provide any explanation whether the location will be an issue? Because I know when we talked about the Fields project and the oversight of that, there was an issue of distance that became a problem. So I just want to understand how this vendor was selected in Wilkes-Barre and whether or not that's going to add any cost or complexities or anything else that would impact the project.
Fair question. I believe Mr. Fritz and Mr. Sakala are here. If you wouldn't mind going to the podium, we get a response.
Good evening. Mark Sobek and Company was recommended by the architect that we're using one at the Arcola building and had previous experience with them and also with their work in court work if they end up in the situation where we hopefully would never end up, but we know that we have somebody that's very qualified that has worked as an expert witness to work through roofing issues that become very detailed to hold people accountable. That's what our main selection was when that recommendation came back to us from our architect that we're using.
So will the distance from Wilkes-Barre to Matheson be an issue?
No. No, it has not been. They showed up, as a matter of fact, when they came here, they were just out a few times already to review drawings, etc. And when they were here, that wasn't an issue.
But can I just ask, are we paying any extra expenses for travel?
It's traditional to be paying travel for professionals. It's part of, it's typical. They either put it in, a lot of times in contracts where you don't see it, or sometimes they're up front and say it's this much money. So yes, they will be charged for travel.
Okay.
Good evening. Good evening. If I could just add, Mark Sobek, like our firm, like a lot of consultants, we have employees all over the state. That usually determines what geographical area you can manage, professionally. I was in Tioga yesterday. We have a large project up there. We have an employee who lives close by. So it's common for some of these specialty services to have firms that sort of handle a large geographical area and have employees in different areas to handle them. For example, we don't go past Harrisburg because we don't have any employees on that side of the state. But Sobek, they're an independent firm. There aren't a lot of professional firms that handle roofing consulting. There's a very limited pool. Most of the consultants out there are affiliated with one particular roof or another, so the independence of the consultant was a heavy factor in choosing them as well. Thank you.
Okay, so are we ready to then vote on items 2 through 8 under H, Master Plan Capital Projects? All those in favor? Okay, the motion passes. And now can I have a motion to approve item H1 as presented? Ms. Hall, can I have a second? Okay, any discussion?
Just want to say that, as I expressed at the Property Committee meeting, my concern with this item is that it's my understanding that fixing the acoustics in the main gymnasium at the high school is not in the original master plan. And I understand it's $2,000 for testing, but I believe the added cost, should we just move forward, I believe was estimated somewhere in the neighborhood of $60,000, $65,000. So that's my concern with this project, and that's why I wanted to have it broken out separately. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Earnshaw. Are there any other comments on item 1?
Yeah, just so all the information is out there, I guess on all these items, they were discussed pretty extensively in our 4.5-hour marathon of a committee meeting. This work is strictly for baseline acoustical testing. And Dan and Mark, if you guys want to add on to this, this is baseline acoustical testing to be done while the gym is in a state with the floors covered, so that if we decide through the RFPs that we get through next month, is that correct for this work? Okay. Or possibly after that, then the board can decide at that time whether or not to go forward. As we know, that's a lively gym from a sound perspective. This only is the baseline testing, and I believe the work that was quoted was anywhere from $30,000 to $65,000.
Is there any other discussion on this item? Okay. With that, I'll take all those in favor of approving item 1 under H, Master Plan Capital Projects. All those opposed? Okay. Motion carries 7-2. For the record, we have Mr. Earnshaw and Mr. Ryan opposing. Now, may I have a motion to approve the decision/recommendation from the non-binding final best offer arbitration as presented? Mr. Ryan. Can I have a second? Ms. Cancro. Are there any comments from the board?
We have a legal matter to address.
I'm sorry, we have a legal matter to address. Go ahead, Mr. Pratt.
So there were 2 questions that came up during public comment. The one was whether the board is legally obligated to keep this confidential, and it is a requirement in the arbitrator's order to keep it confidential until 10 days or until either group votes on it. So yes, they're bound to keep it confidential at this point. And the second one was, is there a reason that any individual on the board is conflicted out of voting? And the issue came up previously, and individuals were given opinions that there is no reason to conflict anybody out from voting tonight.
Thank you, Mr. Fry. Are there any comments from the board on this item?
I'm confused why anybody in the public would say that the information isn't out there, just because I just wanted to reiterate what you said at the beginning of the meeting. So the best offers were out there from MEA and the board, and we collected public comment. So I would imagine that anything in the arbitrator's report comes from those best offers, correct? So I just wanted to kind of clear up any confusion, unless I'm wrong.
I appreciate that this is definitely not the typical manner in which we would conduct voting, and but I do understand that we are obligated to maintain the confidentiality, and so this is the way that we're proceeding. Are there any other comments from the board? Mr. Ryan.
Yeah, I just want to state that I don't think anyone on this board would prefer it to work out this way. I know most of the time we do have the MEAs vote in advance of ours. There is a extreme benefit to that because they don't have to meet in public. We're required to vote on these things in public and have discussions. So frankly, I'm disappointed. We received this last week. There was plenty of time to have the vote in advance. I was fully expecting it to be that way, and I think it's a terrible thing that we're actually put in this position.
Please don't call out. Do we have any other comments from the board?
First, I want to just say I agree with Mr. Ryan's comment you just made. We're in a pretty unfortunate situation, and since I'm unable to comment on the arbitrator's decision, I'd like to read from comments that I sent to Dr. Zerbe to pass along to the arbitration panel. And this is from an email that I sent on October 5th, 2017, as I said, to Dr. Zerbe. And that was prior to when I was appointed to the board, which happened in December of 2017. And I'll quote, just read an excerpt from the email I sent. I have reviewed the final best offers of the Methacton School Board and the Methacton Education Association as posted on Methacton's website. Given the budgetary impact of the proposed salary increases included in both offers, I would encourage the arbitration panel to reject both offers. The proposed salary increases will guarantee the maximum allowable property tax increase for the next 2 years. In addition to the balance of the budget, the district will likely need to reduce costs through staffing and/or program cuts. The proposed salary increases are approximately 2 times the current rate of inflation, are excessive for an entity funded by public tax dollars, and well beyond what is currently being experienced in the marketplace. End quote. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Earnshaw. Are there any other comments from the board at this time? Mr. Winters.
Yeah, I want to go back to the reason that I ran for school board. It's around the balance of education and fiscal responsibility, and nothing has my experience over the last year as being part of these contracts and the complexity of the situation and the arguments on both sides being correct. And the decision to decide to vote for something on this is based on that balance. It's not based on backroom deals. It's not based on anything other than doing the correct thing between balancing education and fiscal responsibility. That's how I'll be voting.
Yeah, just to address the conflict issue, I haven't been part of the executive sessions related to these negotiations. I'm not allowed by law. I have watched this entire process unfold essentially as a member of the public, just like everybody else sitting out there. And like everybody that's sitting in front of us, my only frame of reference for these negotiations is to compare the 2 final best offers that were posted out there. I do have the luxury now of being able to see the arbitrator's final recommendation. Viewing those 2 offers as the bracketing for this discussion, I do see the agreement as a fair compromise between both parties. I think there's something in there for both of us. I think there's things in there that both parties don't particularly care for. But as you know, my wife has been a Methacton teacher and a member of MEA for almost 20 years. And while I do understand the perception of a conflict in voting, Pennsylvania law is abundantly clear, and I am allowed legally to vote. I also see it as my obligation to both the voters and taxpayers to fulfill my duties as a school director. So I will be voting on this tonight. Thank you.
Are there any other comments from the board at this time? All those in favor of approving the decision/recommendation from the non-binding?
Please.
I'm sorry, please don't interrupt. Motion to approve, I'm sorry. Can we have all those in favor of approving the decision recommendation from the non-binding final best offer arbitration as presented? And I believe that this will be conducted as a roll call vote. Is that correct, Mr. Fry?
You can do it that way, sure.
Okay. Sorry, Jen, we're going to start with you.
I vote yes. Oh, sorry. I vote yes.
No.
Yes.
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 With an 8-1 vote, the motion passes. Okay, we're moving on to personnel items. Dr. Sosnovic?
Thank you.
Oh, I'm sorry. 1 second.
Are we distributing those documents? Okay.
Personnel, Dr. Sosnovic.
Thank you so much. For the board's consideration tonight, we have 1 resignation professional, 2 resignation classified, 3 change of status, 3 uncompensated leave professional, 2 uncompensated leave classified, 1 sabbatical, let's see, 1, 2, 4 supplemental contracts as listed and attached, 1 classified substitute to be put on the substitute list, the list of volunteers, 8 job descriptions, and the establishment of a new position. I would like to add to Miss, believe her name was Fiscato. I did contact Dr. Spiewak, and he assured me, although we did not have yet to find a suitable candidate for the track coach, there are plans in place to make sure that the program runs without a hitch on Monday. The track coaches and our Dr. Spiewak will be communicating to the players directly.
Okay. Are there any personnel items that the board would like to take separately?
I say P, the establishment of the new position.
Okay. Is there anything else that members would like to take separate?
Take K separately.
All right. So can I get a motion to approve personnel items A through J, L, M, N, and O?
I'm sorry, Kim, could you take O out?
I'm sorry. Can I get a motion then to approve personnel items A through J, L, M, and N? Ms. Cancro. Can I get a second? Ms. Reese, is there comment from the board? Okay, I actually have a question relating back to what was expressed during the public comment and the vacancies at the high school. I know that we are constantly working to fill positions, and if you could give us an update on the status of where we're at with any of that.
Relative to what? The specific position or our process for hiring? Or
I think just
a
high level. Are we experiencing any challenges in filling positions? Are we looking to fill vacancies with long-term subs through the end of the year? I guess that's kind of the... Is that too vague?
Yeah, a little bit, but I'll try to
Okay.
sum it up for you, maybe
Thank you.
to address an overall comment. But depending on the vacancy, whether it's a resignation or not, there's a certain process to follow. So whether, we first if it is a vacancy, let's say, of a professional position, it's posted internally, and we look for internal candidates. Typically, during the middle of the year, we don't move internal candidates due to the disruption it would cause internally, so we put an LTS in there for the remainder of the year, and that's contractual and agreed upon process by both professional, our MEA, and the district as well. We do have a number of leaves that do take place, for a various number of reasons, whether they might be, medical professional development or, what have you. Our goal is always to identify through use of our, STS service, the most appropriate candidate to fill those positions. We do interview for them and post if we don't have LTSs already in our talent ed system itself to fill. As it's no surprise, there is a substitute shortage, right? So depending on the certification, sometimes we do have challenges, but thus far this year we've been able to take all those challenges head on and effectively staff all vacancies appropriately and timely, I would add. I hope that addresses your request.
Thank you. I appreciate you jumping in on that, because I know that.
And there's one other matter to add to that. I charged Dr. Sosnovic with working with our administrative team to come up with options to increase our available pool for daily and long-term substitutes. So we're anticipating coming before the Education Committee likely in April to lay that plan out and to seek their approval to move that forward for consideration by the full board. So we look forward to that as well.
Thank you, Dr. Zerbe. Okay, so we have a motion to approve those items. Do we have any other comments? And seeing none, can I have all those in favor of approving items A through J, L, M, and N? Okay, the motion passes 9-0. So now can I get a motion to approve item K, 1 through 4? Somebody have a motion. Okay. Can I get a second? Okay. Do we have any discussion on item K? Mr. Navarrete.
Yeah, just a couple questions. Related to the spring coaches, I guess, Troy, can you answer the same question about what the process is for how we fill coaching vacancies? And then specifically what's being done to address girls' track right now?
I can't give you specifics into what the the process is for posting or filling girls' track. I got a brief update, which I just shared, from Dr. Spiewak on the fly here to help address a public comment. And just to reassure that the program, is being taken care of for Monday. But relative to the posting of other coaching positions, that's all facilitated through the Department of Athletics and Activities through Dr. Spiewak in conjunction with my office, where we post the positions. We then, similar to any other process, we receive a number of candidates. We, evaluate those candidates through an interview process, narrow down the most qualified, individual. Once an offer is made and accepted, they go through the standard HR process of, onboarding process to make sure they have all their clearances and stuff like that. So it follows very much a traditional path of any other employment inside our organization.
My question is then, I don't know if you could review the process, is it teachers that are the ones, and if there's not an interest within the teachers, do you publicize out to the public the opportunities? Because perhaps there's not an interest internally, that we could promote it more outside of, I'm not sure the procedure.
Right. So again, similar to our other postings as well, we do seek internal candidates, and when not available, we look outside as well. So we do have a number of coaching positions that are both internal and externally filled, as you could see, and as as described even on our head coach position here at football tonight. So, it follows a very similar process to any of our other our vacancies in terms of, us exploring both internal, external candidates to find the greatest level of largest candidate pool we can have to find the most qualified candidate for that position.
Are there any other comments or questions on these matters? Go ahead.
Just to follow up, what kind of feedback are we getting from the coaches that we are hiring about why people aren't attracted to these jobs?
I would have to, we don't do, surveys on, why people are not, attracted to these jobs. I haven't had really specific conversations surrounding that. I'd have to see if Dr. Spiewak or, any of the other building principals were hearing anything, but I could definitely look into that and get you that information, if available, at a, future up.
I will just add two things. One is I know I had questioned the vacancies last week, and already a couple were filled. Not that that answers it, but I knew that they were in the process. And second, just to make the board aware, when Dr. Katona and I planned out the rest of the Education Committee meetings, extracurriculars is on the agenda. Just as an update and to kind of go through all of these type of questions and how we do that. It's not set in stone yet which month, but it's definitely in the next couple months. It will be on the agenda for Dr. Spiewak to come and update all of us on different avenues of the extracurriculars.
I just want to make it known that the process for gathering coaches and some of these vacancies that you see, while it's troubling certainly for the student athletes and their parents associated with those particular sports, and not that it makes it right or wrong, but it is a challenge on a regular basis to fill all these spots. So one of the recommendations that has come, as you know, we have a strategic plan, and in that strategic plan is to look at different methodologies and our hiring practices, and some of the recommendations that have gotten back to me as when we're hiring for staff here in the district, whether it's professional staff or whether it's staff in the support realm, that we also indicate and ask them if they'd be interested in coaching or supervising other student-related activities. And I think that's another thing that we need to work on as we continue working through the strategic plan and revising those processes. But please know, this is priority number one for Dr. Spiewak. He does work on this on a regular basis, and we do have qualified, we'll call them temporary substitutes until the permanent person is found. And we've done that in the past, and it's worked well. These are coaches with experience in those particular fields, and will be made available for these student athletes. So I know it's a concern of yours, it's a concern of many of our parents. I do apologize, but we'll make sure that our students are well cared for and are ready to compete.
I just had one quick question. Are all these amounts, they're based contract-based? Old or new contract?
The arbitrator's decision has not been, or I guess it now has been, approved, and there were new rates, contained, there, inside, so there will be retroactivity involved with supplemental contracts and activities and stuff like that per the new agreed upon contract. I will just take a moment to also just inform the board that I just received word that MEA did vote and pass on the arbitrator's recommendation, so that means that the contract is ratified on both ends.
Did you vote?
Thank you, Dr. Sosnovic. Are there any other comments on item K?
Yeah, Kim, just real quick.
Yes.
Dr. Zerby, I think we had Paul here, and Dr. Spiewak few months ago, and he mentioned bringing other supplemental contracts, or Troy, either way. I would like to see the issues that we had around clubs at the high school in Arcola much earlier than May. It's a issue, and I think Dr. Spiewak had mentioned of possibly bringing them to May to us, and I think I specifically said we need it much earlier in the process. I'm trying to re-emphasize that to Dr. Spiewak, that we see those clubs and what concerns we may have with those. Thank you.
Yeah, we certainly heard that. You need to understand there's quite a bit of work that needs to continue and get prepared to not only present information to the board, but more importantly, make sure that all the matters that are associated with under the agreement are outlined and clarified, so that when we do present, we're able to present it with fidelity in language as well in total cost for your consideration. So we certainly understand the implication of its impact on the budget, and we're working towards that.
Yeah, it was more, Dave, I'm trying to get in front of more. It was more of an issue around sponsoring clubs not being moved forward, not so much the financials in this particular case.
Looking at the K3, regarding the mentors, it seems kind of late in the year for us to be approving mentors for the school year. Is that, I should ask you this beforehand, I didn't think of it until this afternoon, but I guess my question is, how come we're seeing mentors now instead of in August? When are they identified?
So we assign mentors as needed as we hire new staff. So we have hired new staff in the recent months, and so it's important that they don't have to wait to get a mentor until the next school year in the summer. And so we want to pair them up with a professional right away to help support their transition into Matheson.
Okay, thanks.
Anything else on item K? Okay. All those in favor of approving the supplemental contracts as listed? Okay, the motion passes. Now, can I get a motion to approve the cabinet job descriptions, item O? I'm sorry.
Could I just take a second to have Mr. Lotier stand up? He is the now approved head football coach for Matheson. Thank you.
Welcome aboard. Okay, now can I get a motion to approve item O, the cabinet job descriptions as listed? Ms. Reese, a second. Mr. Drummond, any comments on the cabinet job descriptions? Okay.
Just a couple questions here. I had asked before, has each of these been reviewed by the respective director to ensure that all of the tasks that they currently do on a yearly basis or whatever is captured here, and anything that they don't currently do has been removed?
That's accurate.
In regards to the Director of People Services job description, I had a follow-up question after the meeting to Dr. Zerbe in regards to the certifications that are listed here. Are these the proper names of the certifications?
They are.
And I guess I'll just ask a more general question here. I do see that the flexible language has been added here. Alternatives to above qualifications as the board may find acceptable. I know that there was some talk about, do we want to put preferred in here? That seems to be a very broad and blanket thing that you can pretty much forget everything else that was listed above if the board so chooses. And I saw that some of them have been increased, like the Director of People Services to a doctoral degree. I believe the same was for curriculum and instruction, while other director positions I think still require just a bachelor's. So I still think that these are semi-flawed in terms of the job description itself, in terms of if a current director does leave in the future, getting the right candidate, weeding out the candidates who we really wouldn't want to fill these. I know they can submit an application, doesn't mean they're going to get the job, but I think it makes everyone's job easier in terms of HR to weed out some of those candidates before they even get there. So I just want to make the comment.
I just wanted to thank Troy and anyone else involved for making some of the changes that we had suggested.
Yes, I would like to echo that because we went from a baseline to a much more solid job description here.
Okay, any further comment on the job descriptions? All those in favor? Opposed? 8-1, the motion passes. Now, can I have a motion to approve the new position of fulfillment specialist as presented? Oh, go ahead. Second? Okay. Any comments? Dr. Zerbe?
So I just want to bring to your attention that the administration has been working on this particular matter as a result of vacancy that had occurred some time ago. And with that, there was a bid on that vacancy which opened up a position of the courier. For last year, we had considered, how can we best package the time and the efforts of that particular position to not only leverage an efficient but an effective operation to not only take care of our mail, move packages and other materials around, but also to maintain the warehouse all wrapped up in one position in an effort to make sure that we're streamlined. So that was reviewed. Mr. Fretz did a fabulous job working with the building principals because it takes a lot of coordination because this person touches every building and almost every operation with the distribution of goods and services. So with that, Mr. Fretz worked with Dr. Sosnovic. Together, they met with the members of the Teamsters, and as part of this process this evening, if this position is fulfilled as per the job description, next month we will be recommending the elimination of 2 other positions where the net result will approximately save us or be a cost avoidance of about $50,000 annually.
Thank you, Dr. Zerbe. Are there any other comments from the board on this item? Mr. Earnshaw.
A couple questions. Is this a 12-month position? So this is the full year?
It is.
Okay. And how was the rate of $30.18 per hour determined?
Based on the courier and warehouse specialist position, and then what we did was considered the added responsibility and requirements of skill that the individual would have to do to perform this, and then working in collaboration with the Teamster local, we determined the appropriate amount.
Okay. As a point of reference, what was the hourly rate for the other 2?
I got that right here. All right, so the courier was $28.38 an hour. And
$28.38?
Yes, sir. Okay. And then warehouse specialist was $29.93.
Okay, great. Thank you.
You're welcome.
Any other comments on this item?
Just in terms of the process of this, it wasn't on, kind of our agenda. It didn't make it through property. It sounds like there was a process here. You mentioned what we did, who we talked to, and everything like that. I'm just wondering why, we had a work session last week that this is an establishment of a new position, and it's just kind of, we got it mentioned in the board memo, and if you could just talk a little bit about that.
Sure. So we had a well-defined process which would have hopefully had this on the work session, last week. That was our intention. However, the Teamster local requested that they had a few more days to just review this with their legal team. So we didn't feel it be appropriate to put it on the work session. And then once they got back to us that everything was good on their end, we moved it forward.
And the other part of that is the timing. So certainly after the legal review and determination by Teamsters, one might think that we could hold this off for another month. But what we have is we have a position of courier that went to maintenance. Is that?
The individual took the maintenance mechanic position, which opened the courier position up, correct?
And so what happens is under the Teamsters agreement, we're required to fill these positions within how many days? And we're reaching the end of that.
The new
period.
agreement is 40 days, but it's 30 days. We have to hold a position open for that individual to decide whether or not they wanted to come back down into this, any one particular position. So that is also, addresses the timing issue of it.
Thank you.
Anyone else on the establishment of the new position? Okay. Can I have all those in favor of establishing the new position as presented? Okay, the motion passes. Curriculum and programs, Dr. Katona?
Thank you. There are no items moving forward for approval this evening, but I did just want to give you a quick update on kindergarten registration, which is scheduled for the week of March 12th at Woodland Elementary. We have 220 time slots for appointments, and currently 171 of those have been filled. Last year, we ended up filling all of them and adding for the next week. And I will give another update at Monday's Ed Committee meeting in terms of where we are with the numbers.
Thank you, Dr. Katona. Policy, Dr. Zerbe?
Yes, there are under 12B, there are 10 policies for your approval this evening. Policy 202, eligibility of non-resident students. 222, tobacco and related materials. 904, public attendance at school events. 905, Citizen Advisory Committee. 906, public complaints. 910, community engagement. 911, news media. 912, relations with educational institutions. 914, relations with intermediate unit. And 917, parental family involvement.
Thank you. Can I have a motion to approve the second reading policies as presented? Ms. Hull, a second. Mr. Navarrete. Any comments from the board on these items? All those in favor? The motion passes. Gifts and donations.
Under gifts and donations, we have 9 gifts, and as follows: accept a gift of children's books from Shannon Eckhart in support of Worcester Elementary's reading program, a value of $120. Accept a gift of a percussion kit from Christine Leone with the used music to be used in the music department at Skyview Upper Elementary School, value of $150. Accept a gift of a Meade reflector 4500 telescope with tripod from Allison Reichwein to be used at the Malin Planetarium, a gift of $250. Accept a gift of a Berkshire flute from Michelle Vitelli to be used in instrumental department at Eagleville, value of $50. Accept a monetary gift from the Lower Providence Optimist Club to be used for the Woodland Elementary Backpack Program, a value of $150. Accept a monetary gift from Kathy Maloney, funds from the Skyview Music Department fundraiser to be used for the Skyview Music Shirt Fund, a value of $1,010.60. Item number 7, accept a monetary gift from the Merck Give Back Employee Giving Program to be used for the Arrowhead Student Activity Fund, value of $500. Item 8, accept the monetary gift from Merck Give Back Employee Giving Program to be used for the Arrowhead Student Activity Fund, value of $500. This is a $1,000 gift, obviously, but the requester had asked that it be approved in 2 separate motions. That's for their reporting purposes. And lastly, 9, accept a gift of food from the Lower Providence Optimist Club to be used for the Skyview Upper Elementary Backpack Program, a value of $150. Also under 13 are trips. Approve the trip for the Academic Decathlon State Championship, cost of the district $138.60. Item 2, approve a trip, item actually 2 through 6, approve trips for fifth grade outdoor education program from the dates listed, no cost to the district. Item number 7, approve a trip to the Matheson High School Orchestra to PMEA Region 6 Orchestra Festival in New Hope on the 22nd through the 24th. The cost of the district is $324.40. And lastly, approve a trip to the Matheson High School girls lacrosse team to Damascus High School on March 23rd through the 25th. No cost to the district.
Thank you, Dr. Zerbe. Can I have a motion to approve the gifts and donations and trips as presented?
Hey, Kim, if you don't mind, my normal request, can you take 5 and 9 out, please?
Yeah, sorry about that. Okay, so let's just do the gifts and donations, items 1 through 4 and 6 through 8. Can I have a motion to approve those? Ms. Reese, second. Mr. Winters, is there any comments from the board? Okay, all those in favor? None opposed? That passes. Now can I have a motion to accept the gifts and donations, item 5 and 9? Mr. Winters, second. Mr. Navarrete, any comments from the board?
Just real quick, since I am a member of this club, I will be abstaining again. I'd just like to make that part of the record.
Thank you, Mr. Ryan. Any other comments? All those in favor? Any opposed? One abstaining. For the record, Mr. Ryan has abstained from the vote. The motion passes 8-0. Can I get a motion to approve the trips, item B, numbers 1 through 8? Ms. Reese? Can I get a second? Mr. Earnshaw? Any comments from the board? Okay, all those in favor of approving the trips as presented? The motion passes. Okay, we have dates for board members' calendars, including tonight's meetings on there, and a whole slew of committee and work session and board meetings for March. Do we have any old business for this evening? Any new business? Oh, I'm sorry, Mr. Navarrete.
That's okay. On old business, on old business, I know Dr. Katona talked about the kindergarten registration. I just want to add, I went to the kindergarten readiness presentation that she coordinated with, I guess Tara was there, they had building principals, counselors were there. It was really an excellent job done by all involved. I think it was great that, I know I sent you an email about this, but I thought it was great to have all those people there to answer questions from the parents. You know, it's been a while since my kids were in kindergarten, and it was... I
was going to ask why you went. Sorry.
I was curious. I wanted to see... Well,
a lot of stuff that I didn't know.
I wanted to know why... I wanted to see what the questions were that kindergarten parents were asking, right? Full-day kindergarten came up more than once, right?
Sorry.
No, that's okay. That was part of why I wanted to go. So, but it was really an excellent night. You guys deserve a lot of credit for it.
Thank you, Mr. Navarrete. Any other old business? New business? Mr. Ryan?
Under new business, I would like to make the motion to approve the boards upping their level of PSBA membership to the full access, I believe was the correct wording that they used. And as this is a new matter which was not listed on the agenda, this would open up public comment on this item.
Second.
Okay, we have a second. So do we need to write the motion first? Do we need to open it to public comment?
You accept the motion verbally?
Just verbally, the way that it is. Okay. So then, at this point, we'll take any public comment on the new business item, which is to vote to approve upgrading the PSBA membership as it was presented this evening from Mila Hayes. Okay, no public comment at this time. Comment from the board?
I will just say to those who are unaware, this is a volunteer job, and it requires a lot of hours, and I have learned more in the last 2 hours. Excuse me, I can't speak tonight. I already told you that Breakfast with Bunny included breakfast, so I apologize. I've learned a lot in the last 2 years, and although this is a volunteer job, it is incredibly important, and some of the decisions we make are difficult, and some of the trainings that are offered are not always available to people who work full-time. So I think this all access would be helpful, just so we can continue to learn and grow and help this district be even better than it is. So thank you for bringing this up, Mike, and thank you, Dr. Zerbe, for having Ms. Hayes come.
Go ahead. I just want to say that I also think that this would be a good thing for this board, especially because we're all relatively new, and just looking at just some of the costing out some of the things, the legal roundup that I think 2 or 3 of us had expressed interest in is actually $149 with the standard membership, and I think that's the program that's in March. And so if 3 of us go, that's $450 that if we upgrade our membership would then be complimentary. So I mean, right off the bat, there's an advantage there. And the courses that they're rolling out, the online trainings, if there's 53 courses and they wanted to, and they're asking for $35 a course for the standard membership, that's $1,855 a person if we would all take all of those courses. So I just think that we all are interested in learning a lot more, and I would be in favor of this.
Any other comments on this item? Okay, so we have a motion and a second. So can I have a motion to approve upgrading to the all-access PSBA membership? Do we need to put terms on how long the membership is or anything like?
You may, you don't have to.
Okay, so let's go with a 1-year renewal of the membership. All those in favor? Okay, the motion passes. And thank you, Mr. Ryan, for bringing that up. Anyone else for new business? Okay, at this time, we'll take courtesy of the floor.
Hello, I'm Cheryl Pfeiffer, and I'm here representing Matheson Education Association. I just wanted to let you all know that we opened our voting up this afternoon to our members, and early this evening, Diana and Amy stayed until the last person that wanted to come to vote had that availability to do that. So I do want to report that the association has overwhelmingly endorsed the arbitrator's report. Thank you.
Thank you very much. We appreciate that. Anyone else for courtesy of the floor? Mr. Bickelman.
Let the record show that my name is Joe Bickelman from Audubon, and I wasn't born yesterday, okay? If you would have waited just a little bit longer, 30 years of being on at board meetings and with Colonial School District, 30 years, I've seen every spin you can imagine. But if you would have waited 15 minutes, you would have had to disclose the arbitrator's report to the board. To the public. Just 15 minutes. We could have heard everything about the arbitrators. Shucks. What timing? And, I just thought it was so poor that the announcement was made just so close to when the board voted, like it was almost like it was scheduled somehow. And I think Mr. Malik is going to need an addition to his back room that he mentioned, okay? I just think that was terrible, the way that rolled out. Do you want me to move the rope, pull the rope out so we can see the PowerPoint presentation on the cost ramifications of what you adopted as a board? Is that prepared? Because the public would like to see it. What's the cost ramifications? The other thing is, Michael Ryan abstained from voting on a $300 combined item. Mr. Navarrete, you should have abstained. Mr. Winters, you should have abstained. It just doesn't look good. You should have abstained. Abstained. Because your spouses are related to the teachers union. You just don't do it. You just don't do it. Okay? Yeah, I just lost a lot of respect here tonight, a lot of it, because it was just so obvious what happened here, how it was planned. I never saw the board vote first on anything dealing with the teacher's contract, ever in my life. Okay, it's come to my knowledge that, are we accepting RFPs for solicitor services? Is that on?
I believe that's posted on our website.
Yeah, it's on the website. I heard it at no meeting, no committee meeting, no board meeting, nothing. And we're looking for solicitor services. That's big. I watched the reorganizational meeting at Colonial School District. The reorganizational meeting. Are there any new items? Yes. I'd like to go out for RFPs. I'd like, the board member said I'd like to go out for RFPs for solicitor service as an additional item to the reorganizational meeting. Oh, and by the way, if you have any questions for those RFPs, they're due in the superintendent's office by noon tomorrow. Guess what? Fox Rothschild was voted out in January after the December reorg meeting. That's what I watched on Colonial's website. I heard nothing about solicitor services being put out for RFP. Nothing. That's big. I don't know what the solicitor has to say about that. Do you know that it's on the website?
I do.
That's incredible. I didn't hear it at any meeting. What's that all about? Let's put an ad in the paper and get it out there so that you can get a nice pool of applicants for that. The other thing I have to ask was the services, the construction services at the high school, what's it called, MEP or something? MEP services, was that advertised 3 times in 3 separate weeks in a newspaper? I didn't see it. I read the classifieds all the time. I saw it once. It's supposed to be 3 separate weeks. Mr. Bricker, was that advertised 3 separate weeks?
We can have an answer for you by the next month's
You better
meeting.
make sure, because you as a board could be liable for that in your personal pocket if you don't follow the bidding procedures properly. But I had no idea you're going for services, for RFP service for solicitor. It wasn't even mentioned.
Sorry, anyone else for courtesy of the floor? Mr. Andrews.
John Andrews, Lower Providence. One of the policies that you adopted this evening was on community engagement. And it's clear to us in the public that you're not getting a good grade on community engagement. The RFP for the solicitor, that seems to me that's something that either has to be discussed publicly before it's put out there, or that it's something done strictly by the superintendent on his own initiative, hoping that later on that the board would agree with him. I just don't know what's going on there. I have spoken to the ongoing endless reassessments activity at Shannondale, do we end up changing horses in midstream and go on for another 5 or 10 years on the Shannondale reassessment? A lot of money sitting with little interest on it in the bank. Regarding the budget that's being worked on, the good enrollment projection for next year shows a drop of 47 in K-12, and I think at Arcola there's a drop in enrollment on the order of 70, and so there are some increases elsewhere, but we've heard nothing in the budget adjusting staff positions or the number of bus runs, and we've had enrollment drops year after year. We'll never get to 6,500 at this rate. At a recent meeting, you voted to give a try on 2 new sports at Arcola, but there was no criteria as to how popular they'd have to be to make them permanent. I think that's an omission that should be corrected. We have a number of school directors here with teachers in their families, and we now have had 2 elections where there's been substantial union support of the care group. And interestingly, yesterday at the Supreme Court, there were arguments in the Janus case. Anyone who doesn't know about the Janus case? It concerns payroll deductions for public union dues. Justice Kennedy spoke to 8 negatives associated with public unions.
Mr. Andrews, can you please wrap up?
And there was a question for the American Federation of Labor Lawyer. If you don't prevail, more or less political influence? That was a question. And the lawyer answered, less political influence. And Justice Sotomayor said, you're basically arguing as the plaintiffs to do away with unions. We'll see what happens, and hopefully the local districts won't be overruling even the Supreme Court.
Anyone else for courtesy of the floor? Ms. Alabak.
Meet you halfway. Thank you.
Candy Alaba, Eagleville. I'm sitting again tonight and I'm hearing, which I've heard for years, about the budget. And the budget, it comes down to, it's for the students. I have not seen a budget yet that has benefited students in the long run. We're looking tonight at maybe the teachers getting a substantial increase. The job as a union is to look out what's for the best interest of the union teachers. The school board's job is to look out for what's in the best interest of the taxpayers first, then the students, because without us, you have no school district. And the majority, again, I'm going to state, do not have children in this school district, and we are being left out of the conversation. Because right now, we're looking at a school district who has people donating for their snack back program. You have a 5K run and raise $10,000 to make sure the kids in this school district have enough to eat. That should be a red flag. Because when you raise taxes in this school district, you are going to be hurting those students and more to come, because their parents can't afford to pay. You should be more concerned about why we have a lot of students in this school district who potentially are going hungry. That is something you should be very concerned about. And I have brought this up for the last 3 or 4 or 5 years. This is nothing to be patting yourself on the back. These are your students that you're supposed to be looking out for. Now, when you raise taxes, there's going to be more homes going into for sheriff's sale. You're not having people moving into the district because our enrollment keeps going down. That should tell you something. Now, Mr. Andrews said his projections for next year. You raise taxes, he's going to be right on the money. Since 2006, our enrollment has not gone up. You need to be working diligently to make sure that everyone can afford to live here. But the majority of us do not have a voice. A minority does, because the minute one of us get up and are critical of the board, you shut us down. And some of us have been in this room a long time. And we've seen how boards have come and go. Now, some of you ran on the platform that you were going to be transparent, you wanted the community to be involved, and you wanted to hear what we had to say. I haven't seen that. You have a school policy you just voted on tonight. 910. You need to read it. You want to engage through community, not the community you want to engage. Because, you know, some of us here might bring some really good ideas to the board if you would just, instead of shutting us down. Some of us have been here long. We might be able to help you, but you don't want to hear what we have to say. But you need, your first job is fiscal responsibility to the taxpayers, all of us. Then the students, because the students need us. They need people to stay in this district. You need to be proactive and bring people in. I don't see how you're going to do it right now.
Ms.
I
Alva,
really
can you please
don't.
wrap up?
Well, see, this is what I mean. Wasn't that one of the things, the community was not going to have a time limit if there wasn't a line out the door? I remember those conversations 2-3 years ago. But you need to do what's in the best interest of the taxpayers who will help the students in this school district. And maybe you'll have students that won't have to benefit from the snack back program. I think that's a black mark on this school district, since for years I've heard how affluent and how wealthy we are. Now, I don't begrudge teachers anything, but you know what? You got to draw a line in the sand. You're paying them more money, less students. You're raising our taxes for less students. Something's got to give, and it's on your shoulders, so you might be looking at an exodus again in July after you raise our taxes.
Anyone else for courtesy of the floor? Dr. Malik.
Jim Malik, Worcester. You know, I heard that the MEA is climbing the light poles down on Broad Street. That's what I heard. I heard they're ecstatic. You guys made their day. That's unbelievable. Well, let the staff layoffs begin, because that's what's going to happen. You heard it from me first. Ask Dr. Zerbe, he's going to tell you. So you're going to live with the consequences of your decision, because watch what happens with your budget. Now, I'm going to try to come at you guys a different way. Maybe I can get through to you. Let me read you some headlines. Prom drinking controversy in the burbs. More than 20 students were suspended after being accused of drinking. Dozens of students sent home after showing up drunk at Pennsylvania prom. 41 Matheson students punished for pre-prom drinking. 41 students given a community service. In addition to community service, the 41 students were suspended for varying lengths of time, whether they admitted at the prom that they had consumed alcohol. Mr. Ryan was given a citation for public drunkenness and similar misconduct and has to do 24 hours of community service. This board has not called for his resignation, but the Matheson students were suspended, they have a permanent record, and they were treated differently than the board members. There's a clear double standard for how board members are treated. We have an elite board. It's my opinion Mr. Ryan should resign. Okay, we can't have a double standard. You guys can't treat students one way and treat a board member the other way. You're going to have no moral authority to do anything with your students. So I'd recommend you rethink your position. Okay? Rethink your position. You can't treat students one way and treat your board members another way. Thanks.
Anyone else for courtesy of the floor?
Good evening. My name is Molly Anderson, and I just wanted to just get some clarification with the policy 202, eligibility of the non-resident students. I believe that it was approved tonight, and that was the second reading. Is that mean that the revisions that were online with the 60-day period that children would be eligible to enroll in the school district?
I would say if you have a specific question about enrollment, you could call the enrollment office, but in terms of when a policy that's been voted on tonight takes effect, I would defer to Dr. Zerbe. He may know the answer to that.
It's effective now.
Okay, so
have we talked before?
You had emailed with my husband, and I was corresponding with Jen.
So if you would be so kind, if you would call me tomorrow, I'd be glad to follow up with you on any questions that you have related to the policy and its enactment this evening.
Okay, good.
Okay. Thank you so much.
Anyone else for courtesy of the floor? Okay, can I get a motion to adjourn? First, second. Meeting adjourned.